Imagine a world where everything just stops. One moment, life is normal, lights are on, phones are buzzing, the internet connects us all. The next, utter darkness and silence. This isn't the plot of a disaster movie. This is the true story of how an entire country vanished from the grid in a matter of hours. What happens when a nation of millions is plunged into a total blackout? How does society react when the modern world is switched off? Today, we're exploring the chilling reality of a nationwide power failure, piecing together the events that led to the crisis, the chaos that ensued, and the critical lessons learned from a country on the brink. It all started on a seemingly ordinary day. The sun was shining, people were going about their business, working, shopping, commuting. Then, without warning, the first signs of trouble appeared. A flicker of the lights in an office building. A sudden outage in a quiet suburb. At first, these were dismissed as minor, localized issues. Annoying, sure, but nothing to worry about. Power companies received a few calls, but the scale of the unfolding disaster was still hidden. Inside the National Grid Control Center, however, a different story was playing out. Alarms began to sound, red lights flashing across monitors. Operators watched in disbelief as one power station after another tripped offline, creating a domino effect that was rapidly spiraling out of control. The problem was a cascade failure. Think of a power grid like a complex network of highways. If one major interchange shuts down, traffic gets rerouted. But what if multiple interchanges shut down at once? The system becomes overwhelmed and everything grinds to a halt. In this case, a combination of factors: an unexpected surge in demand, a critical equipment failure at a major substation, and a communication breakdown between regional operators created the perfect storm. The grid's automated safety systems, designed to prevent widespread damage, began to intentionally shut down sections to protect the hardware. But the cascade was too fast, too widespread. It was like trying to stop a tidal wave with a bucket. Within minutes, entire cities went dark. As the sun began to set, the true extent of the blackout became terrifyingly clear. This wasn't just a neighborhood problem, it was national. Streetlights were out, traffic signals were dead, leading to gridlock and chaos at intersections. People were trapped in elevators. Hospitals, which had backup generators, suddenly became islands of light in a sea of darkness, but their fuel supplies were finite. The silence was the most unnerving part. The constant hum of modern life, refrigerators, air conditioners, distant traffic was gone. It was replaced by an eerie quiet, punctuated by the occasional siren. Communication collapsed almost instantly. Cell phone towers, reliant on the grid, went down one by one as their backup batteries died. Without phones or internet, people were cut off, isolated. Rumors and misinformation started to spread by word of mouth, fueling anxiety and fear. Was it a technical fault, a natural disaster, or something more sinister? The first 24 hours were a test of human resilience and desperation. With no way to pay by card, cash became king, and ATM lines grew impossibly long until the machines ran out of money. Supermarket shelves were stripped bare as people panic-bought essentials: water, canned goods, batteries, and candles. Those who weren't prepared were left with nothing. The lack of running water became a major crisis in many high-rise buildings as electric pumps failed. Sanitation systems were compromised. For the elderly and medically fragile who relied on powered medical equipment at home, the situation was life-threatening. Emergency services were completely overwhelmed. Firefighters responded to a surge in fires started by candles and improvised cooking setups. Police were stretched thin, dealing with traffic accidents, looting, and public order disturbances. It was a stark reminder of how fragile the veneer of civilization is and how quickly it can crack under pressure. Behind the scenes, a frantic battle was underway to bring the country back to life. This process, known as a black start, is one of the most complex and delicate operations an engineer can undertake. You can't just flip a switch and turn everything back on. The grid has to be rebuilt, section by section, in a carefully synchronized sequence. It starts with a single power station, one with the ability to start up without external power. This station then energizes a small, isolated part of the grid, like a tiny island of electricity. From there, engineers meticulously connect to the next power station, and then the next, carefully balancing the supply and demand at every step. One mistake, one surge too large, and the whole section could trip again, sending them back to square one. It's like performing open-heart surgery on a national scale, with immense pressure and no room for error. Teams worked around the clock, fueled by coffee and sheer determination, knowing that the fate of millions rested on their shoulders. Slowly, painstakingly, the lights began to come back on. The first signs of success were small victories: a single neighborhood glowing in the darkness, a traffic light flickering back to life. These moments were met with cheers and relief. The return of power was not uniform. Some areas were reconnected within 48 hours, while others remained in the dark for several days. As power was restored, a new set of challenges emerged. The sudden surge of every refrigerator, air conditioner, and television turning on at once, known as cold load pickup, threatened to overload the fragile recovering grid. Authorities had to plead with the public to conserve energy, to turn on appliances gradually to give the system a chance to stabilize. The emotional impact of the blackout was profound. For days, people had been forced to connect with their neighbors in ways they hadn't before, sharing resources, checking on the vulnerable, and simply talking. It fostered a powerful sense of community, a shared experience that bonded strangers together. In the aftermath, the country began a serious post-mortem. What went wrong? How could this happen? The official investigation revealed a chain of systemic failures. It wasn't one single mistake, but a series of vulnerabilities that, when combined, led to total collapse. The report highlighted outdated infrastructure, insufficient investment in grid maintenance, and flawed communication protocols. The blackout served as a brutal wake-up call, not just for that country, but for the entire world. It exposed the fundamental dependency of modern society on a constant, reliable supply of electricity. Everything from our water supply and food chain to our financial systems and healthcare is built on the foundation of the power grid. The lessons learned were transformative. The government and power companies launched a massive overhaul of the national grid. They invested billions in upgrading equipment, building in more redundancy, and improving the smart grid technology that can predict and isolate faults before they cascade. They diversified their energy sources, integrating more renewables with localized storage to make the grid less centralized and more resilient. Emergency preparedness plans were completely rewritten. New protocols were put in place for hospitals, water treatment plants, and communication networks to ensure they had longer-lasting, more robust backup power systems. Public awareness campaigns were launched to educate citizens on how to prepare for extended outages, encouraging them to have an emergency kit with water, food, and other essentials. The blackout became a defining moment in the nation's history, a scar that served as a permanent reminder of its vulnerability, but also of its capacity to recover and rebuild stronger than before. This true story is a powerful reminder for all of us. We often take electricity for granted, flicking a switch without a second thought, but the complex web that powers our lives is more fragile than we imagine. The experience of the country that vanished from the grid shows us that preparing for the unexpected is unparanoia, it's prudence. It highlights the importance of investing in our critical infrastructure and the incredible strength of community in a crisis. When the lights go out, it's the human connections that shine the brightest. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shape our world. Stay curious and stay prepared.